So I was using the interview to get feedback for my next interview so I can be able to land an offer, hopefully.
So for the person watching right now that has zero tech sales experience, just like you, right? You came up against that objection. They're wondering if they can actually make the jump. What would you tell them is the first thing to focus on if they were going to enter the job search? Welcome to the Breaking Into Tech Sales podcast. Today's guest is Favour Johnson. He was actually in high ticket before jumping into tech sales. He was making 9-10 grand a month sometimes, so making great money. However, he didn't see the long-term career growth with high ticket sales, and was actually recently married, wanted to start building a career path that's going to take him to 300, 500K one day, but do so in a way that's going to actually support a family, a wife, kids, all of that. So his story is very interesting because he didn't know anything about tech sales before he jumped in. And so for those of you who have no tech background experience, yada, yada, I think you're going to learn a lot from this one. Enjoy. Favour, what's up, dude? Thanks for jumping on, bro. I appreciate it.
Anytime. Happy to be
Yeah.
here.
Heck yeah. So let's go to the beginning, right? Before tech sales was even on your radar, you were already making really good money, man, in high ticket sales. Like people get into high ticket sales to do the numbers you were doing, right? Like 9, 10K a month. Can it be inconsistent? Yes. But can it be very lucrative? Yeah, for sure. So you didn't have kind of an income problem that a lot of people have wanting to get into tech. What was it about tech that made you want to move into this industry, even though financially you were well provided for?
It's a great question. I will say that the main motivation was stability and ceiling opportunity. So when I say stability, it's high ticket sales is 100% commission.
Mhm.
Like you have to close a deal to make an income. Now, although I've been in the space for a very long time, every single month I had this wavering anxiety, like, oh my gosh, what if I don't close anything this month?
Yeah.
It's $0 today, and I gotta pay it. Like it was just subtle voice in the back of my head that made me go into calls a little bit stressed.
Mm.
So that was the first thing. And I recently just got married too, and high ticket sales is it's a very it's an emotional driven environment because you're handling objections, you're pulling emotions, you're having to challenge frames, you're having to hold prospects accountable.
Mhm.
That made me at the end of the day emotionally drained to even want to have a conversation or be present with my new wife.
Wow.
So long term, I was like, if I have kids or when I have kids, I can't be doing this long term because I want to be a present father. So that was the first thing. The second thing was the opportunity growth. High ticket sales, the next step from high ticket sales is just another offer that pays better. You're still closing and there's nothing more. It's like there is no room for there isn't a room for leadership opportunity. Max you can probably make is maybe $200,000-300,000 a year, which is great income, but at the same time you're still trading that emotional volatility, still having to close deals, and that's just all there is to it. So I chose tech sales because of the opportunity of growth.
That's such a good point, and I think only closers will know that, high ticket closers, how draining the role is, not just emotionally, but every call you do is 1 hour typically, right? So you're literally trading time for money. And I think that's where getting into, and look, high ticket's great. Like you made some good money. It's really good for certain people, certain life dynamics, but when you do think long term, once you get into a career that's more like you're a closer for a B2B offer, you're not really trading time for money anymore. You're way more trading skill set for money at
Mm,
that point. And so I think to your point, long-term compatibility, family goals, all that. And by the way, congrats on being newlywed. It's so exciting.
thank you.
How many months? You're like new, right? Like 2, 3 months?
We got married December 27th, so about 3 months or so. February,
Okay.
March, April. Yeah,
Oh
about 3 months now.
man, still got the newlywed glow. I love it, brother. I love it. Hey, the glow doesn't go away as long as you're intentional. Keep watering your garden,
Indeed.
man. Let's go. So tech sales then, how did it pop on your radar? And what were your like initial thoughts about it? Did it seem really hard to get into because it's so corporate and so formal, or was it accessible to you? Like, what was your initial impression?
That's a good question. So some more context. In my previous high ticket role, to be transparent, I did get fired, or I got laid off from the role, and the reason why was because um I'm very aggressive when it comes to objection handling.
Hmm.
And I was working with a new business at the time where the founder was having he didn't like my style of selling, so he let
Mm.
me go because I was a lot more aggressive than what he was expecting. And as a result of that experience, I'm like, I just got married. I was making good money, but I just got laid up because of my skill set was aggressive. So I
Mm.
was researching, thinking, well, how can I build my new family on stable ground while I have this time back to myself? So
Mm.
I was researching different opportunities. Sales is my number one skill set. What can I find? Or what can I do? And then I learned about enterprise sales. And I'm like, oh, what is this on YouTube? So I was researching. I'm like, these guys are making five, six, 700, 800, $1 million a year. I'm like, what the heck on a W-2? So the numbers got attractive, but the stability was what appealed to me. So I
Yeah.
did some research. Well, cool. How do you get in this and this and this? And I realized that the best way for me to find help to get in is to get a coach.
Mm.
But I didn't know who or where to find a coach. My background was I have experience with marketing and advertising. So I know once you search something on the internet, you get retargeted with ads. So I went on Google and just search tech sales coaching programs and just
Let
waited
that
on Instagram
algorithm
for
work. Yeah.
wait for ads to hit my profile, and
Yeah.
there you came popping along. I'm like, oh great, let's book a call. That's what happened.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think you were evaluating another program as well, correct? What was the decision-making process there? What ultimately led you to Sword?
For sure, that's a good question. I was looking at SI Sword. I was looking at two other programs. The what I was looking for was there were two things I was considering. Number one, what is the day-to-day activities of being a tech sales rep and SDR as in
Yeah.
as an entry level rep, and how do you actually do the job when you get the job?
Mm,
So most of these other
mm,
programs I was looking into, they were like, yeah, dude, we're gonna help you submit application, just show up for the interview, and you're Gucci in 30 days, 40 days, you get a job. I'm like, sounds great. Hopped on a call with Sword and David when I was speaking with him. What he mentioned was the whole preface is doing the job to get the job. And
yeah.
I'm like, huh. So I was thinking, I'm like, short term, maybe if I do this other programs, I could do 50 interviews in a week and maybe playing the numbers game, I can land a job. But if I get the job, I might get fired 20 days from now.
Mm,
But I'm like, if I do Sword and I learn how to actually prospect my ways into companies that I'm applying for, I can have a high opportunity of being able to succeed at the job when I land the job. So that was my decision making filter.
yeah. Do the job, you get the job, baby. That's what it's all about.
Indeed.
It is the
Yeah,
harder path, but
it
it's
is.
the difference of like, you wanna go shoot steroids and get big for 6 months and then deflate and you didn't actually, like, gain muscle, or do you wanna actually go learn how to work out and do it the right way? And by the way, we
Right.
still do it faster. I have the fastest average. We have a 100% success rate, 34-day average right now. It changes, like, every week just depending, um, and you get to learn how to do the job. So, yeah, I think you chose well.
Indeed. I'm happy I did. So,
So you had never interviewed for a tech sales role before joining Sword, right? What was
no.
intimidating about that process? What do you feel like the biggest gap was for you between what you'd been doing in high ticket and kind of what tech companies were looking for in a little bit of a more corporate environment?
Everything. Everything was intimidating. I guess like to be more specific though, it was more so like high ticket sales is you can make a decent amount of income, but it's unstructured.
Hmm.
And what I mean by this is like most of these companies that you're going to be working with are typically startups. They're doing 100K, 200K cash collected, trying to scale to $1 million a month in revenue. So they're hiring reps to scale. So it's very disorganized or very like do the interview today, you get hired tomorrow. Tech sales, these companies are valuated at $13 billion, $10 billion. They're a lot more structured. So the most intimidating thing for me was I had this thought in my mind, imposter syndrome. Like, this is corporate. Like, should I be here? This is too structured. When I went through the interview process and I was seeing how many cycles I had to go through, 4 or 5, I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is very intimidating. So I would say
Mhm.
the application, the interview process, and conducting, being in the interview and answering those questions was intimidating for me to begin with.
And your very first interview was with Encode, and that was also your first rejection. So what did it feel like to come into this brand new industry? You're like, all right, I'm gonna give this a try, and then the first door that opens gets slammed shut in your face.
Hmm. Yeah. So the couple of my first 3 applications I applied to using the strategy that you teach, I landed interviews. So Encode, Savient, and I forget the other one. I think
You had
is it
Rippling,
Shopify?
Salesforce,
Yeah, I think the first 3 were Encode, Savient, and I believe
Shopify.
Shopify.
Yeah,
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 the first 3. Encode rejected me. I didn't even. Yeah, I got the recruiter interview. After the recruiter interview, she sent me an email like 24 hours later saying they're not moving forward because of they're looking for more experienced SDRs. And I'm like, the punch was so the rejection hit so hard. I was like, okay, cool. Well, let's keep chugging along. Let's see what happens. But it sucked, but it's part of the game.
yeah, yeah. I mean, to your point, your interviews started to ramp up pretty quickly, right? Shopify, Salesforce, Savent, eventually Rippling, right? What what do you think you did differently in those interviews that no other candidate was doing that actually helped you start to propel and move to the final rounds?
Hmm. I think with Encode, I think it was nerves. I was very, very nervous. The the best way I learn personally is I like to throw myself in the fire and get
Yeah.
live feedback. And of those feedback, say, cool, XYZ happened, why? And
Mm,
then take notes and then reassess and then tackle the problem again. So when I went into Encode, I was thinking, I don't know how this is going to go. I've gone through the program. I don't have any experience. I'm expecting myself to make mistakes. So let me allow myself to make mistakes. So when I went through the interview and she said they're looking for more SDR experience, I learned, cool, the objection is lack of SDR experience. The
yeah.
next interview, make sure I emphasize that I have experience from SDR as an SDR based off my sales experience. So I was
Mm.
using the interview to get feedback for my next interview so I can be able to land an offer, hopefully.
Yeah, freebie for the listeners. Whenever I get someone who's new to tech sales, they want to get in, they'll ask like, "Well, should I take this interview? I know it's a company I don't want to work for." I'm like, "Yeah, take the interview. You need the practice. You need to get kicked in the teeth a little bit because if you have sample size 10 interviews before that dream company comes along versus the dream company coming along, you're going to be way better off having 10 at bats before that, right?" So, it really is something you have to be thrown into the fire to. And so I think that's the right
Indeed.
mindset for sure.
Yeah.
We did a mock cold call role play for Rippling, and I know that was a brand new thing for you too. What did that kind of prep teach you about in terms of like how to show up for these interviews? How do you do well with the mock call? Tell me about what that experience was like.
For sure. Now the mock call role play was essential. Even before that, there was 2 things that you did. You connected me with Sword graduates who Lana Rose and Rippling on LinkedIn, and I hopped on a call with them, Brian and Ben,
Mm,
and Brian is a G. Hopped on a call with them, and Rippling has sent me an assessment before for the mock call. Find a decision maker, get your script, yada yada. And I made all of that. And I hopped on a call with Ben, and Ben was like, "Hey, look, man, just send me the stuff. Let me take a look at it."
yeah.
And the person I had on the assessment was the wrong persona. I know. It was. Oh my gosh! It was. If you hadn't connected me with the graduates, Brian, I would have gone in there with the wrong persona and I got the offer. But Brian was like, "Look, dude, everything else is looking good, but this is the wrong person you're targeting." He was like, "Let's hop on the call. Let's hop on LinkedIn, and then we work together to find the right person." And then I think after the role play that we did, hopped on the call with Brian, hopped on the call with Ben. Me and Brian did another mock call, because he's an SDR with Rippling, so he simulated the actual environment.
Yeah.
And then yeah, dude, like that like that right there, deep connection and the role plays, the connection specifically, like that was, and I was telling my wife, I was like, if I hadn't spoken with Brian, who knows?
Hey, bro, God is good. That's all I know. At the end of the day, God is good, and He was looking out. Uh, so that interview process, I know Rippling's interview process is intense, right? They're a very fast growing company, very high standards. You finally start to progress, and you're like, you're locking in on this potential offer. I remember you told me that your heart was racing when they called you for that final conversation. Do you remember that moment? What was that like for you when you kind of almost made it to the end, but there was still some uncertainty? What was that like?
You know, it is funny because even before then, I after I failed my interview with Shopify and Salesforce and Savient, when I got those three rejections at Savient, I made it to the final round, Salesforce the final round. When I got those two rejections, I'm like, I can't keep doing this. Like really, like what's going on? And I think I texted you. I was like, I wasn't the pitch deck that you had us make. I wasn't doing that, showcasing that on the leadership calls. So my call with Rippling, I made sure that every single conversation I did, I followed the exact process verbatim and not try to stray off the path. And then on the interview with the hiring manager, Brandon, I did the exact same thing, and he was just cheesing from teeth to teeth. He was like, "Dude, like if I could hire you right now, I'll hire you. I'll hire you right now." Like he was so impressed, and then he was like, I can't make the decision, but what I can do is I can influence how fast you go in the hiring process.
Mm,
So after him, I had two more interviews, leadership and mock call, and then decision making. So the two interviews, he's like, you know what? I'm gonna put those two interviews on the same day at the same time, so we
yeah.
can get you hired ASAP. And the
Oh,
next 2 days, he scheduled that. Next one day, got the offer. I was like, let's go.
bada bing, bada boom. Let's go. Yeah, man, having that internal champion, as we call it in the sales world, it's so important. And your manager ultimately, like the way to break down the interview stage is super simple. Recruiter's there to make sure you're not a crazy person and that you actually belong in tech, right? If they like you enough, good, they'll move you on. Manager, the most important interview because you've got to build that emotional connection because they're going to be the ones that are actually working with you day to day. That is by far the most important interview because if you do well, what happened with you is exactly what happens. Now they actually want you, they want to offer you, but you have to go through the leadership round and maybe the assessment and whatever. But now you have their support. So they're going to lobby for you. And
Mm,
ultimately, it is their decision. The team feedback does matter. So if like all of the team leadership recruiters, if they're like, I'm kind of a maybe on him, then it's like, well, manager, you get to pick. So ultimately, it's the manager's choice.
mm.
But all I have to say, yeah, that is the most important interview round, and to hear the manager with cheesing is like, all right, this is a done deal. I just got to execute the rest of the process.
Indeed.
So for the person watching right now that has zero tech sales experience, just like you, right? You came up against that objection. They're wondering if they can actually make the jump. What would you tell them is the first thing to focus on if they were going to enter the job search?
Mm. The first thing from a high level, the first thing is I would say get help, right? Get help. Like even if it's get help, like don't try to do it by yourself. And I'm gonna be biased because I've gone through the program. I'll say get help from Jack. If you hate Jack, don't like this program, get help from something or somebody. Just don't try to figure it out by yourself because you're gonna waste time, you're gonna waste money, and you're most likely gonna give up and go back to comfort because you're not seeing success. So I'm gonna say get help. I After you get help, listen to what the coach that you're working with tells you to do. When I got started, you mentioned the pitch deck, and I wasn't bringing up the pitch deck on the calls. I was just emailing and just letting the calls go as it is, which resulted in me not getting offers earlier. Once I started doing that, boom, I got the offer of Rippling. So I'll say get help, follow the exact direction, A to Z, and not change or move anything.
Hmm. That's a good word. If you could sit down with Favor from January, who had never had a tech sales interview before, what would you say to him?
Oh, I never had a tech sales interview before? Hmm. I would say I would say the interview you had with Savient and Shopify used to pitch that.
Follow the process, aka.
The process, because I could have got an offer like 19 days in
Yeah,
if I
yeah,
had just done that.
yeah. And instead, man, you had to make it 31 days. What a burden. What a burden, bro. No, man, I knew you were gonna crush it from day one. Like you carry the presence of God, and you just carry peace, and like the Holy Spirit works in and through you. And I see that, and I saw that right when we met. I was like, this dude's gonna get a job real fast. Like unironically, your name's Favor. I'm like, the favor of the Lord's on this guy. Like you can't take it away. It's in your name. And so to see how this all worked out, yeah, God could have opened the door 19 days in, but I think he had to kind of teach you a little bit that's going to actually help sustain you in the new role, right? And I think he
Mhm.
knew, like, okay, I need to put him on this team over at Rippling because of this growth track. And so if we look at it just sovereignly, like it makes sense that it all worked out the way it did. And I couldn't be more excited for you, for your bride, for your future together. And man, what an awesome transition. So congrats, man. I'm really proud of you.
Appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. Any final words of wisdom for people trying to get into tech sales here as we close out?
Um, Only final words of wisdom I have is over the last couple of years of me being in high ticket sales, the number one way I've been able to be successful in my career is investing into mentorship. I invested into learning how to sell whatever it is I'm trying to get into to learn. I always invest into mentorship. Now, there is nothing wrong in trying to figure it out by yourself, but the question is, how long would that take you? Might take you 6 months, might take you 12 months, heck, might take you nothing at all because you might give up. So, the final words of wisdom is if you have a specific outcome you're trying to get to or a problem you're trying to solve, the mind set that created XYZ problem, that mind cannot solve that same problem. You need to have a perspective that's greater than that problem to solve the problem. And the easiest way to have a greater mind than the problem is to invest in a mentor
Mm.
or a coach to help you solve that problem. So that's the greatest lesson from me going through this experience. I've learned anything I'm trying to accomplish in the future, go invest in real estate or whatever it is I'm going to do. First thing first, look for a coach, invest, execute. That's the biggest lesson I've learned.
Yeah. Heck yeah, man. And this is true of marriage. This is true of athletics. Like the fastest, furthest growth you're going to have is learning from someone who has already paved the way, right? So, yeah, man, you're definitely not going to be a stranger. I'm excited for you. I'm excited to track your journey and your growth, especially with some of the other guys, Ben, Brian over there. Sword is kind of unifying a whole squad over there. It's great. And don't be a stranger. You've got access to the whole 90-day new SDR course. Please tap into that, bro. It's gonna your managers, they're impressed now, but wait, like if you actually implement that 90-day training, they're gonna be like, who is this guy? And yeah, you're gonna promote pretty quickly. So I'm pumped for you, bro.
Thanks, man. Looking forward to it.